So the Philadelphia 76ers currently stand at the 3 seed in the East with a record of 39-19, coming off a 5-game winning streak, recently beating the Memphis Grizzlies in a comeback win. So James Harden and Joel Embiid have been driving factors for this team's success, and it's been no surprise that the Sixers are a lethal team because of this duo. We've seen it last season too when the James Harden and Ben Simmons trade went through. Basically after that trade, I mean, it was looking like one of the more scarier duos in the league. And now with James Harden fully healthy, Joel Embiid looking like an MVP, I mean, this might be the year for the Sixers to win it all. I mean, they got a good roster. Tyrese Maxey's developing. Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker, defensive guy right there. So this might be the year for the Sixers to win it all. And I don't know. I mean, Harden finally looking like his old self again, adding in Joel Embiid and, his facilitating, James Harden being able to facilitate the offense. I feel like the Sixers definitely have a strong case of going to the NBA Finals this year. So in today's video, I'll explain the success of the 76ers this season and where they should go from here. I would say they do have a lot of pieces they can work with. They just acquired Jalen McDaniels at the deadline, so they can do some things with that, and even trade guys like PJ Tucker. I mean, the contract is definitely weird, but I definitely would try or at least look to trade him or Tobias Harris or even guys like DeAnthony Melton. But I know Melton has been definitely good for this team, so we'll talk about it here. So firstly, we have James Harden, and we'll go over his stats here pretty quickly. Harden over the season, he's averaging around 22 points per game, around 11 assists, and 6 rebounds on 46, 40, and 86 shooting splits. So this season alone, he's looking like probably the most efficient season in his career, as he's averaging a career high in three-point percentage. That's great to see. The way Harden is able to jumpstart the offense is something unique in his game, as he really turned himself into a pass-first point guard. Earlier in his career, he was mostly a guy that would just, be a guy on offense and being ISO heavy, basically, a guy that would take all the shots on the offense, and he would be surrounded by a ton of shooters, which definitely made sense. He was the focal point of the offense. But now, going into his, I would say, mid-30s, he's more of a guy that is going to get the offense involved, to get more of his teammates' shots up first before him, and have guys like Joel Embiid basically get started on offense, which is pretty much his job on the team. Harden, he's been able to adapt his game to play with other stars, as he's long past his days of dropping 50 bombs against other teams. He does still have the ability to at least drop some points. I mean, last game, I think he dropped like 31 in that comeback win against Memphis. So we'll see tonight, hopefully against the Boston Celtics whenever they do play them. So I think Harden, he definitely has the scoring ability to at least score points, but definitely not on the same level like he did back in Houston. So he's also creating opportunities for his teammates to score easily. Guys like Tyrese Maxey, DeAnthony Melton, Tobias Harris, even PJ Tucker are all benefiting from him being the facilitator on offense. And, that's great to see. Getting your teammates involved into the offense first is definitely something you want to do, so that you can get, more offense flowing through the whole game and, just get guys going. So I think it's especially important for this team because I got like a Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. They provide a lot of scoring output on this team, to the point that if they don't score on offense, or at least aren't effective on offense, I mean, this team is definitely going to struggle. With Joel Embiid and James Harden, I mean, that's enough to at least carry the offense, but they need their supporting cast to also make some buckets too. So defensively, he's not as bad as people think he is. I mean, he is a solid perimeter defender and a pretty underrated post defender. Whenever he wants to, I think Harden can definitely buy into the defense, which will make the 76ers even tougher to beat. I just think that, defensively, he's, I would say, a little bit below average. So now on to Joel Embiid. He's averaging around 33 points per game, around 10 rebounds, and around 4 assists per game on 53, 34, and 86 shooting splits. Embiid, he's making a case for the MVP award this season, as he's been very dominant on both ends of the floor. He's also throwing in 1.5 blocks per game and a steal per game, which definitely helps his case a lot more. Defensively, he's been the anchor for this team, and I would say he's definitely their best defender besides PJ Tucker. Obviously, PJ Tucker being a good help defender, not really the best on-ball defender. I mean, he's, I would say, a more overrated on-ball defender, but definitely one of the best defenders in terms of help defense, in terms of, just being there, moving his feet, staying in front of his defender. I mean, he's pretty much there to do the dirty work. But I think in terms of overall defense, Joel Embiid is definitely the guy that you want. So Embiid, he does his damage mostly in the pick and pop with the elbow, as Harden is a very I would say he's more of a guard that runs the pick and roll a lot heavier compared to other guards. So Embiid, he's usually going to be shooting around the elbow area, like I said, and doing a lot of dribble handoffs too. And I think that's really the bread and butter of the offense. I mean, Embiid, you really want him in the post or either on the elbows. I mean, on the perimeter, he's not too bad. 34% from the three is not too bad, but I definitely would like him more in the post. He's more of a dominant center, someone that's going to be using his body more to, post up. And that's really where his game works the most. So nobody on defense can really mark him. I mean, really the only times Embiid has bad games is when teams just try to double or triple team him in the post, which definitely happens a lot. And they know how to cover the pick and pop with Harden and Embiid, which makes sense. I mean, obviously, if you're the defending team, you want to at least cover their two best players and try to stop their best plays. But with Embiid, I mean, he's a dominant force in the post, and I don't think really much centers in the league, other than a select few, could definitely hold him. I mean, guys like Giannis, guys like KD, obviously those type of guys can match up against Embiid a lot better. But I mean, Embiid, he is a 7-footer, and he can be able to use his dominant strength in the post a lot better. Joel Embiid, in my opinion, should be high on the MVP ladder race, as the Sixers are the 3rd seed in the East, and they have been playing well as of late, playing some pretty great winning basketball. He's been able to have an impact on both ends of the floor, like I said, and he's been basically their driving factor in their wins by a wide margin. So the duo of James Harden and Joel Embiid is definitely one of the scariest duos in the league. But I mean, the time to win for this team is definitely closing. Harden, he's closing in on 34 years old this year, and Embiid, he doesn't really have the time to wait for a better roster, as he's in his prime right now. So Joel Embiid, he's around 28 years old, so definitely in his prime right now. I don't really think he has any time to wait for Daryl Morey to build a better roster around him, but I feel like Daryl Morey, being one of the more underrated GMs in the league, he definitely has the ability to at least build a better roster come 2 to 3 years from now. But I mean, Joel Embiid in his prime right now definitely doesn't want to wait for 2 to 3 years down the line to win. So the team has a ton of holes to fix. They hopefully could win this year if they do fix some holes. I mean, Dwayne Dedmon as the backup big man is definitely interesting, but nothing too needle moving right there. Hopefully, Daryl Morey recognizes this weakness, as the backup center position has been a problem for this team for this whole season. Hopefully, they make some moves by the end of the playoffs, and it definitely will bite them later on in the playoffs if they don't have a defensive center off the bench. I mean, Montrezl Harrell has been pretty subpar. Paul Reed has been pretty okay, but nothing too amazing. So we'll see what happens with Dwayne Dedmon, but they have a ton of holes to fix on this roster. I do think they have a good future. I mean, Tyrese Maxey is definitely a guy that they need to keep. And, outside of that, maybe Shake Milton, he's been pretty okay for them too. But yeah, I mean, this team is definitely good. They're definitely a contender in the East right now. They're one of the more scarier teams in the East. We'll see what happens with them. Hopefully, they can make it to the NBA Finals this year. That's the end. And I'm out.